Local service ads for lawyers. Are they worth it? Why did they stop working? We're going to talk about that today. I'm joined today by my partner, Cesar Cobo, who has a tremendous amount of experience working with our clients through LSAs. Now, you probably know what LSAs are. I talk to 15 attorneys a week, and it's not that you don't know what they are, but it's more along the lines of they used to work, they stopped working, getting a lot of bad phone calls. So we're going to clear all that today. We're going to talk about should you use LSAs, and if you are going to use LSAs, how do you get them to work? So just real quick, let's take a look over here at our screen here, just to be clear about what an LSA is and where it shows up. This is the keyword search, Miami DUI attorney. So LSA obviously stands for local service ads. So it's only going to trigger for local searches. If you were to search for DUI attorney, it would still probably show up because it's going to localize the search. But point being, it only shows up for localized or intent localized searches. Now, these right here are the local service ads. What you can see about it, one is the prominence. Google always shows these at the very, very top of search engines. Bit of a double-edged sword, both good and bad, and we'll talk about why. But it's got the picture, it's got the review stars, it's got a click to call, and it's got the Google screened here. So Cesar, let's talk about this real quick. First and foremost, big question we had, how do you get Google screened? Does that just come naturally? Do you have to apply for it?
Yeah, that comes naturally. You have to submit things like your insurance. Basically, it's Google verifying that you're a legitimate business, that you have real reviews, and Google takes care of that for you.
Okay, and what about this profile here? So is this the same thing as a Google business profile that shows up in the Maps pack down here? Are these coming from the same thing, or do they have to create a different profile for local?
It's a different profile for local service ads. Picture is different. You upload the picture that you want shown for the local service ads. The reviews, as you see, are being pulled from the Google business profile. So there is connection between the local service ad and the business profile.
Okay, and the reviews that you get for local service profile, does that pull through? Because I've actually heard that people can buy local service ad reviews that are different from Google business profile reviews. Is that the case?
That I'm aware of, no. It should be that the reviews you see in the local service ads are directly from a specific Google business profile.
Okay, interesting. So back to this now here. So these are pay-per-performance ads, right? So these that you see down here, these are traditional pay-per-click ads that have been around basically since the inception of Google. Local service ads are a bit of a newer product. These are pay-per-lead, pay-per-action. These are pay-per-click. So the biggest thing that I think can sometimes attract people to local service ads versus pay-per-click ads, DUI is an extremely competitive vertical, right? The cost per click here, just to click on this link, can be upwards of $200, $300 sometimes, depending on the market. The cost per lead here can be $150 to $200. So why is there such a discrepancy? Why is the cost per click almost the same as the cost per lead on these ads?
Well, the thing with the local service ads, as you mentioned, you're paying for the lead. So what drives up the cost of PPC is that you're paying for clicks, and people sometimes will click on stuff and then they get taken to a landing page. So that's another element to it, where then your landing page has to be able to convert into calls for it to be worth it. So that starts to drive up the cost of the PPC model. With local service ads, Google takes care of all of that for you. There's no landing page. Right there, they have the click to call button. They have the reviews. There's nowhere for them to go other than for them to call you or to message you. And now they actually have where they can book directly on your calendar, which is really cool. So there's 3 conversion points from local service ads. The other thing that keeps the cost down is with PPC, it's inevitable. You're gonna get these 5-second calls where someone calls and hangs up. With local service ads, they don't just bill you for the call, they actually just bill you for qualified calls. So any of these calls that are 5 seconds long and they hang up or someone doesn't answer, you're not gonna get billed for that. Somebody is calling for something that's not relevant to what you offer, you can request a refund. So all of those things start to lower the cost of local service ads. That's why it's more cost effective and it makes more sense.
Yeah. Something that I do hear a lot of though from prospects when I talk to them is that they get a lot of stray phone calls.
Yeah.
And I think so it's a double-edged sword, right? These are right on top of the SERPs, meaning it's the first placement that people see when they're looking for any of these attorney-based keywords. But the problem is that it's also the first thing people see. And it's got that big click to call button, and especially on mobile, you're gonna get a lot of phone calls. And from your opinion, not all of those phone calls are going to be good and qualified, because if you put yourself in the shoes of an everyday person, right, they're probably just searching for lawyer or Miami lawyer, and you're going to get a lot of stray phone calls from immigration. We even hear sometimes that if you're an accident lawyer, you're getting phone calls from people that are looking for a body shop. It's the internet. People are confused. They want to talk to people, especially if they're a little bit older. You're going to get a lot of stray phone calls. Now, again, you can dispute those phone calls with Google. It's something that they've gotten very good at. And I actually just saw recently that they rolled out a new automated system to help dispute that again, because I think they probably got a lot of complaints about this. But the biggest thing, Cesar, with LSAs, and the reason why we do them for free for our clients too, if you sign up for SEO with our agency, we actually do LSAs for you for free. It's because they're a coin flip, right? Like, some of our clients are printing money off of LSAs. Other clients can't turn them off fast enough. So the one thing I hear a lot from people is they used to work a lot, now they don't. Or last week I was getting a lot of phone calls, now I'm getting none. Talk to me about why that is. Like, what have you seen from your research and experience working with LSAs that can cause either for a drop off or just poor performance with LSAs in general?
Yeah, so the first thing is there's nothing official from Google that states they're not going to show your ads or why they're not showing your ads. Everything, this is all theory. It's also empirical knowledge from clients that we've worked with and just patterns that we see. Generally speaking, new accounts tend to have more visibility. So our theory is that when someone gets started with local service ads, Google wants to give them prominence. They want to sort of wet their beak and get them used to getting leads from Google, because ultimately they want to push people into their flagship product, which is Google Ads, which is the PPC platform. So local service ads aren't going to work forever. So if they're working now and you're crushing it, just start to plan for when eventually those calls are going to taper off, because eventually they will. And that's, why I think it's important, the timing of when you do local service ads. If you create an account and you have 2 reviews and you're not ranking anywhere in your Google business profile is not solidified, then I think you're wasting that opportunity, because you're not going to get shown as much, even though you have a new account, because of the fact that you have low reviews. So the timing of when you do it, if you don't already have local service ads and if you haven't run it, is to wait till you have a solid Google business profile where you have plenty of reviews, ideally where it's already ranking in the Maps pack. And now what you want to do with local service ads is, rather than opening up a new office across town in order to get verified there, is use local service ads to show up in those other areas where organically you wouldn't qualify because of proximity with your Google business profile.
So would you say that if a profile stops working, that they should create a new profile?
It works. Yeah, okay. That is a sort of a hack. With Google, you got to test things. And the important thing to note is that just because it works in one area or in one scenario doesn't mean that it's going to work in all scenarios. But it is definitely worth something to try, because once your ads just stop showing up for no apparent reason, you're not missing phone calls, you're not disputing every single call. If there's no reason why Google would be suppressing your ad or showing it less, then there really is nothing, as you mentioned earlier, the difference between local service ads and Google ads is there's no levers to pull. A lot of this is you're at the mercy of Google. So that's sort of like your only recourse is to create a new profile, and it's worked for us in the past, so that is an option.
Yes, I mean, some other things that have traditionally stopped, and like I purposely didn't lead off with these things. We have videos before in the past, these are of us talking about LSAs. We have like a very specific list of things, like if you don't pick up your phone, if you're running LSAs, right, because it's a pay per lead. In other words, Google doesn't make any money off these ads unless you get a connected phone call. And if you're not picking up your phone, you're sitting there first and you get 300 phone calls that day, that's thousands of dollars that Google just wasted on you. So they'll blacklist you. That's historically speaking. I didn't lead off with any of those things because it's a crapshoot. Like LSAs are a literal crapshoot. Again, it's why we do LSAs for free for all of our clients if they're willing to put the money into the ad spend, because it's really one of the placements that we just cannot, it's not even about guarantees, but we can't really comfortably forecast results because we just really don't know what's going to happen with that spend. And honestly, if anybody's charging you a lot of money to run your LSAs, run for the hills, because one, this is results-based advertising, right? Like you're pretty much guaranteed to get phone calls and leads. So They're not doing anything. And it's not like AdWords where there's testing, there's keyword research. LSAs are pretty simple, right? You pick a category, you pick a location, you put a budget into it, and you see what happens, right? Now, again, they are effective, right? If you're a law firm that's scaling to, like, I actually don't recommend these for a lot of smaller law firms because I don't think they're ready to handle the volume of the calls. Because to your point, if these do show up, you're going to get phone calls.
Yeah,
you're going to get a lot of phone calls, and you're going to get a lot of crap phone calls too, right? Like realistically, like, so when I was asking about the difference in the cost between pay-per-click, right? $250 per click versus $250 per lead. What's the discrepancy? Well, the discrepancy is that they kind of even out in terms of the ones that actually turn into qualified leads and then turn into cases, right? You're going to need more phone calls from LSAs to get the same quality of lead that you're getting from pay-per-click, because with pay-per-click ads, they're going to a landing page, which educates them on what you do, qualifies them a little bit more before the phone call, versus LSAs, click to call. Hey, I got in a car accident. Can you fix my fender? You're like, no, I'm an attorney. I'm not a car body shop, right? You're going to get some of those. It's just inevitable, you know?
So that is actually a good segue to my first pro tip when it comes to local service ads. And what I see a lot when attorneys are coming to us and saying, you know, I tried LSAs or I'm running LSAs and I'm getting a lot of irrelevant and bad leads. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make when you're setting up local service ads is having like 80 different services selected. So within the legal industry, there are categories inside of the local service ads. And if you're just in there clicking, I'll take, you know, this lead, this lead, this lead, for the love of God, do not select other, because what happens is now you have 50 or 60 different services checked. Especially the one biggest culprit that I see is litigation lawyer. That can mean a lot of things. So only be very selective over the categories that you choose. That's going to cut down on the amount of search queries that Google is going to show your ads for. It's going to increase the likelihood of every call that you get being qualified or being at least someone that you can help. But yeah, that is the biggest reason why you're going to get a lot of these irrelevant calls, is what you select as your categories. And again, a lot of times attorneys will hit other, and that's going to trigger just a lot of bad calls.
Here's 5 quick reasons why your law firm's LSAs are not working. Number 1 is that your budget's too low. You're not spending enough to show up and beat out the competition.
Number 2 is you don't have enough reviews, and your Google business profile that's tied to your LSA is not as strong, or at least not stronger than your competitors.
Number 3, you're not picking up your phone calls. So LSAs work on a pay-per-lead model. If Google is sending you phone calls and you're not picking them up, they're not making money. Ultimately, you're gonna get blacklisted and moved down the order.
Number 4 is not being selective over the categories that you qualify to show up for, that you tell Google that you want to qualify to show up for. Choosing too many categories can lead to a lot of irrelevant phone calls and a waste of time.
And number 5, time decay. For whatever reason, there's no official guidance from Google on this, but your ads decay over time. You're not going to sit on top of there forever and just collect phone calls. Over time, the performance will dip. That's why it's important. You can't rely too heavily on LSAs. You got to divest into other search channels like pay-per-click or SEO. So that's a crash course on LSAs for law firms. If you guys have any questions, please drop them below in the comments. You can also email us. You can email me directly, ryan@webber.org. If you want to book a consultation with us to talk about your law firm's marketing and how we can help, hit the link below, and I'll talk to you soon.